Anyway, here with reaction to all of tonight's top stories, Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. As a historian and professor and friend, forget being Speaker, although that was a pretty important job you had, and you did balance the budget 5 straight years in a row. If I would have told you that Donald Trump will give the Republic of Iran 60 days to come to a peace deal and willingly give up their nuclear program, that on day 61, Israel would go in, knock out their missile defense systems so they would own the skies over Iran, that they would have operatives on the ground with drones inside of Iran, ready to take out top nuclear scientists, top generals, simultaneously devastating their missile batteries, ballistic missile systems, and 2 nuclear sites, and then culminating with Saturday night, Donald Trump knocking out the 3 nuclear sites that mattered and obliterating them. And then at the end of 12 days, we'd have a ceasefire that's holding. I don't think I would have believed it. I would have said no way. Historically, how do you view that?
Well, look, I think it's actually about right. The Israelis have proven over and over and over again that they have enormous capabilities. That part doesn't surprise me. To a degree that I just wrote a piece on this at Gingrich 360 as a newsletter. Look, Trump is very disciplined. People don't realize this because there's so much noise around him. But he's very disciplined. He has a clear vision of what he wants to get done. He knows how to build a team. And I thought he showed an enormous capacity and a great deal of courage in being patient. He had all sorts of friends, as you know. He had all sorts of friends who were worried about him. Was he going to go wobbly? Was he going to get weak? No. He had a clear deadline. He artfully said to the world, I would really like to avoid this. I hope the Iranians will work with me. I'm giving them 60 days, and I'm confident that he and Bibi had an agreement months ago. On day 61, the Israelis could launch a plan which they have been working on for years. And then after they finish cleaning up the entire air defense system, if they called him and said, you know, we really do need help to take out these 3 facilities. We had a plan which I think started 8 or 9 years ago in planning. And we also taught the world a lesson. We can launch bombers from Missouri to anywhere in the world and have precision targets that are annihilating. And we are prepared to defend America and to defend America's allies. Now, to me, the test is going to be, what are the terms of the truce? Are the Iranians, in fact, going to try to cheat, or are they going to recognize that between Israel and the United States, they're in a total overmatch and they can't possibly succeed? I don't think we know yet how stubborn the Ayatollah Khamenei is going to be.
Okay, I would say that the first thing I would look out for, and has to be part of any ceasefire deal, when they finally get to the table, and they will, and I believe Steve Witkoff and Secretary of State Rubio will be a part of it, that Iran cannot use their proxies and arm them and fire at Israel at will and thinking that they are blameless in that. That would be issue number 1. Issue number 2, anywhere, anyplace, anytime inspections, that they're not trying to rebuild their nuclear program or their ballistic missile batteries and program, because the missiles they were firing into densely populated civilian areas were 2,000 pounds. Now they want to build 4,000-pound missiles. That could wreak a lot of havoc, and that's a lot of carnage and a lot of death. So I think that has to be part of it. And it probably would be nice if they recognized Israel as part of a peace plan, if they really want peace. I don't expect they're going to do that, Mr. Speaker. I hope I'm wrong. I want peace. Well, but if you say death to America, death to Israel, I assume you mean it.
Look, I think you just put your finger on it. The minimums for thinking this is successful is quit saying death to Israel and death to America. You don't have to recognize Israel. You can no longer say death to Israel and death to America. No more ballistic missile developments, period. And open inspection of all nuclear capability, including finding the 400 kilograms of uranium that they have moved out of the sites. Now, either they're prepared to do that, or frankly, the truce will have to end, and we'll have to go back to the Israelis and potentially the Americans bombing them into submission. I think the question here for the Ayatollah Khamenei is, does his regime survive better by caving and accepting these conditions, or would his regime be destroyed by accepting these conditions, and therefore he's better off to go down fighting? I don't think we know yet which decision he'll make.
Yeah, I don't think we will either. But you know what? The world is a safer place today. There's no doubt about that. Speaker Gingrich, thank you for being with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.